MPs are calling for an immediate ban on non-surgical Brazilian butt lifts. They're also known as BBLs and other high-risk procedures. In a new report, they say a lack of regulation has led to a Wild West in which the procedure, and this involves injecting fat into the buttocks, is reportedly being carried out in garden sheds, even in public toilets, by people with no formal training. Mahathir Pasha, our reporter, has been speaking to the partner of the first British person to have died from complications after getting a BBL.
She was just 33 years old and a mother of 5.
She was bubbly, she was funny, she was a great person to be around, and heavily missed.
Alice Webb's family were left broken when she died in September 2024 after suffering complications following a liquid BBL.
It's been an absolute roller coaster of emotions, and still to date. Something needs to be done before another family's torn apart.
The non-surgical Brazilian butt lift involves injecting synthetic liquid called filler into the buttocks to achieve a bigger bum. Critics describe the lax regulatory environment around performing the cosmetic procedure as like the Wild West. The Department of Health did announce what they described as a crackdown on cowboy cosmetics last summer, but this is pending a public consultation and parliamentary scrutiny. A new report, published by MPs today, says the government is not moving quickly enough and urged for the liquid BBL to be banned immediately. The latest data from an industry group shows that since 2023, 947 patients have submitted complaints following a BBL or similar procedure. Of those, many reported serious complications following the operations. 89% of patients said they were blocked or ignored by the practitioner if they complained.
Social media, it really is a hotbed that enables these unscrupulous, morally bankrupt people to promote these types of treatments, telling people that they are risk-free beauty treatments, when in actual fact they are lethal surgical treatments that can and will go wrong when they're performed by unqualified people.
The government has issued a statement saying they will consider the report and respond fully in due course. But with campaigners insisting more lives are at risk unless something changes, the government had better respond quick. Mahathir Pasha, Good Morning Britain.
I mean, Dane, this is just awful. Did you or Alice have any idea of the dangers that she might be heading into?
Not the complications, not as much as what I'm aware of now. With the information that's available now. 2 years ago, looking into it, if you kind of researched it, looked into it, information was coming up even on the internet. It was deemed as relatively safe. Mm-hmm. Now it's kind of a Russian roulette, really. So
she didn't go into it in kind of fear and trepidation. She was looking forward to it, I assume.
Well, you don't know, do you?
No.
So explain how you came to find out what happened.
So no, I didn't know she was going for the procedure until obviously I had the call off. A relative was to get to the hospital.
So
quick.
Just talk us through that moment.
So I had the phone call approximately 10 o'clock at night, was to get to the hospital, ASAP. So, on the route I was driving there, I thought it might have been a car crash. I didn't know. So got there whilst if the doctors and everything were working on it, trying to revive. And, an hour or so later, they couldn't obviously bring her back round. And then obviously the police turned up, and then everyone else turned up. So then we started then getting the info with what actually happened.
We can't go into the exact details of what the complications were because it's the subject of legal action. As people, we can say that she died as a result of having this procedure because of the complications that followed. Look, people die for all sorts of reasons, don't they? And they die slowly, they die suddenly. We never know. But something like this just seems so futile. It just seems such a terrible way to lose your life.
I feel, and others feel, it could have been prevented as well.
Yeah.
It's people that the powers that be, we were made aware of these issues and the dangers around them. Well before, obviously, this death. So it shouldn't be a shock to me. It shouldn't have been a shock to them.
And
what sort of person was Alice? Just very before we move on.
Yeah, well, just also to talk about your fact you're raising your children and all those implications as well.
So you just, like I said, the aftermath. This. To say it's a roller coaster is probably a bit subtle. So we're still navigating through those unknown waters now.
What sort of person was she?
She was one of a kind. A great mother. Who will be dearly missed.
How old was she?
She was 34.
God,
34. Dear.
So, yeah.
What are we going to do about this?
We want to be able to stop the pain that Dane and his family have experienced for others. We need to be able to ban these really high harm procedures, the liquid Brazilian butt lifts, off our high street completely. Same for liquid breast augmentations. We know the government are open to this. They're having a consultation, but what we're saying as a committee now is there's no excuse for them to be on the high street. Let's just ban them straight away. We don't need a consultation. We don't need more families like Dane.
Sarah, I think one of the things that people will be finding it quite hard to take in, other than the utter horror of what you're living with, Dane, which our heart goes out to you, and you know, and your children and your family, and it's just horrific, is that this took place in the UK. I think we've heard horror stories of things that can go wrong abroad, but this is happening in the UK, and some of the procedures, not necessarily this one, of course, are taking place in sheds, in public toilets. You know, just spell out the horror that's taking place on our streets.
It is. When people say it's a Wild West, it really is for the cosmetic industry. It's completely unregulated. Now, I could go and purchase filler, and if Richard said, I give you consent to fill me full of filler, I wouldn't be breaking the law.
Right.
That is not where we should be in this day and age. And for the people that do go abroad, quite often they have tighter regulations than we do here in the UK. So what we need to see is an immediate ban on liquid Brazilian butt lifts and other high harm procedures, but also a licensing system too.
We've said correctly that Alice was the first person to lose their life because of this procedure in this country. A lot of other people, though, have been very ill after it. What are the medical reasons for the dangers of doing this?
Hugely dangerous. So we heard from Sasha, who thankfully survived, but she went for a liquid Brazilian butt procedure in the same way that Alice did. She trusted the person because she'd had other procedures before, because people quite often say, well, why would you do this? And it's because you build up a trust, a rapport with somebody.
So what are the dangers then?
The dangers are that she ended up with sepsis. Right. She ended up in a coma and was given a 5% chance of living. 5% chance.
So if you're having this procedure done, as you said, Kate, in a public lavatory, for God's sake, the risk of infection is off the scale.
Absolutely. So quite often if you have a really invasive procedure, a doctor will prescribe you antibiotics, whether that's precautionary or whether that's because you know that you're at a high harm, a high risk for infection. But people on the high street can't do that. They're not qualified professionals. And I think the assumption is, because we're in the UK, that they're all going to be professionals, that it's all going to be regulated. But what's going into people isn't regulated, and the people administering it aren't regulated either. And industry are calling for this because the people that are well qualified and are experienced are losing out to the cowboys as well.
And I guess part of the problem is people get recommended from friends where things might have not gone badly, it might have been a different procedure, and so they start to believe it's OK because there isn't that recognition that you'd get with other medical procedures. Dane, what is life like for you now? And we can't imagine the pain that you're dealing with and the grief, and for all your family. But I can also see that there's a fire in you to want change.
Yeah, so the fire, as you mentioned, yeah, so we want change. Yeah. You know, first and foremost, we do not want this happening to another family. I wouldn't wish this on anybody.
No.
You know, and it's, you know, just never seems to be an end to it. And it's, you know, everything that happens after, it's just everything completely changes.
Well, if you're watching this, and either you or someone you love, you know, is considering having one of these procedures, please cancel it. Just don't do it. You may not be able to do it before very long if we get some action on this, but please don't do it.